Today I am making a video that I have been pretty excited to just do personally, which is to taste test a bunch of different bagel places in Seattle, Washington. And I think I've mentioned before on the channel that I'm from the East Coast and I am from New York. I'm from the suburbs of New York City in Westchester County, if you're familiar with that area. And yeah, growing up there, good bagel places are really a dime a dozen. It's a very just cheap, casual food that we eat every weekend. But since growing up there, I spent most of my 20s in Europe and now I live in Seattle. And I've come to realize that not everywhere has that kind of bagel culture. So what I typically do is when I visit home, I will buy a dozen bagels, freeze them, and then bring them back here. But I would love to be able to find a really solid bagel option here so that I, can bridge the gap between visits home. So I went to 4 bagel places today, and then I think I'm gonna go to maybe 4 or 5 more tomorrow. I just didn't have time today because I started a little late. And yeah, so I'm not going to kind of like rank these or give them like a 1 out of 10. I'm just gonna kind of qualitatively chat about them. I'm sure that they all have like decent characteristics to them. But yeah, the main things that I'm looking for, which kind of are conditioned by the bagels that I grew up with, are a chewy texture. So yeah, should be pretty chewy, pretty springy. Kind of hand in hand with that is I like a glossy exterior. That typically gives me an indication that the dough is pretty taut and they are going to be pretty chewy. And then the dough itself should be kind of well salted and be flavorful on its own. And then last but not least is they should be pretty dense. So yeah, it shouldn't be like a rock or anything like that, but it shouldn't be fluffy like a roll of bread. Alrighty, so I'm gonna start with the place where I got the cream cheese, and that is Blazing Bagels. And I think there's a few of these around Seattle, but I went to one that was in, it's either in like Ravenna or University District, so like Northeast Seattle. And this was the only place where I got a poppy seed bagel. Everywhere else I got a sesame seed, but they were out of sesame. So that's kind of a good sign that they were sold out. So this is what this guy looks like. So it does have that nice shiny exterior. The size is decent, which is definitely something that isn't the case for every bagel place out here. So yeah, nothing more to do than to cut into it. All right, so this is the interior of the bagel. I'm not gonna lie, it does look a little bit bready to me and a little bit dry, but you don't know until you taste it. So let me just put a little bit of cream cheese on here and give it. So yeah, it is a little bit dry. Like you can kind of hear, like as I bend it, that it's a little bit dry and it almost has like a crust on the outside. That's not typically something that I associate with a bagel, but the flavor of it is good. It has a good amount of toppings. So yeah, it's not going to replace my bagel from home, but it's not terrible and it's a decent size. I'm just going to taste it without the cream cheese just to get the flavor of the actual bagel itself. It is well seasoned, so it is tasty, but to me, it's definitely more, it's somewhere between a bagel and a roll of bread. Yeah, so it's not gonna replace my bagel back home, but it is pretty good. It's just a little bit odd that it has kind of like this crust on the outside as opposed to kind of like a typical bagel, like you would be able to like press it in and it wouldn't kind of make that crumbling sound. If they were being served at a book club, for free, I would definitely eat them. But yeah, I don't know if I would just go back there of my own volition. But yeah, not bad. It does taste good. It's just more like on the roll spectrum than the bagel spectrum. It doesn't have that chewiness or springiness that I'm looking for. So the next place that I went to is Westman's Bagels. And I have been here before, and from memory, it was a pretty decent bagel. So for this one, I got a sesame. I wanted to get sesame for all of them, but like I said, they were sold out. So this one is looking really good. It definitely has that shiny exterior. When I press it, it's not crunching like a roll. I like that, like, you know, the little belly button is closed. Actually, that's typically the way that the bagels that I grew up with look. And yeah, it's a good size. It's the correct size of a bagel. Alrighty, so cutting this open, there are some big air pockets in there, but I'm not going to totally dock it for that. This is this is looking really good to me. So to me, like, that springiness is very promising. So I'm gonna just taste it first without any cream cheese. That's great. The sesame seeds are nicely toasted, so they really add like almost like a hummus flavor to the bagel itself. It's nice and chewy. It's maybe not as dense as I would like it. Like, if you kind of look in there, you can see that there's a lot of little holes the way you would have in like a sourdough. This basically hits all of the marks except for the density. It is very chewy. It's not dry. There's a ton of seasonings, or there's a ton of sesame seeds on the top, which adds a great flavor. Yeah, the only thing is it could be a little bit more dense, but yeah, I do like Westman's. I've been there before. I think that there is a couple of them as well, one in Cap Hill and one in University District. But yeah, I would get that bagel again. It's not gonna replace my bagel from home though, because I needed to be hitting all of the marks to do that. But oh, and I should also say, I think Westman's was actually the cheapest bagel too. I think that it was like $2.50, where I think that all of the other bagels were over $3, which is, to me, that's a little bit pricey for just a bagel without any spread. All right, this next one I'm very excited to try. This is from a company called Hey Bagel, and I'm not gonna lie, the operation looked pretty amazing in there. Now, like I said, in New York, it's a very casual situation getting bagels. It's like typically like just a deli or like just a bagel shop that is very, very casual. It's not, you know, it doesn't have a font like this as its logo. But this place, they are cranking out fresh bagels all day. And look at this bad boy. It is absolutely covered in sesame seeds. And I'm getting sesame seeds everywhere. And it's looking pretty chewy. And it was warm when they gave it to me. And it's still warm. It does look like it has a shiny exterior. I feel like they've all had that, which is nice. But yeah, I am very excited to try this one because I've heard good things from other Northeasterners here about this bagel. Okay, so again, a lot of like air pockets in here. It is pretty springy. It's just the density again. It's not as dense as like and again, this might just be like my local bagel place that I grew up with, but there's so much air, there's so many air holes in here that it does almost make it more like bread. Now, this guy is gonna get a lot of points because it's still warm. So a fresh bagel, like nothing can beat a fresh bagel. But anyway, let's taste before I put any cream cheese. That's pretty dope. So that's delicious. I don't know if you can tell, but like this bagel is so toasted on the outside. So that adds so much flavor to this. The chewiness is absolutely spot on. The chewiness is perfect on this. I'm gonna put a little bit of cream cheese. The outside of it is like, you kind of need to yank it with your teeth, which is great. This is the closest facsimile that we've come across so far. Hey Bagel is doing a really good job. Again, it could be a little more dense, but honestly, it's on its way there. I think that this could be something that I would get again on the weekend. The only thing is that I think this was a pretty expensive bagel. I think it was over $3. I mean, it is what it is. I'm not gonna like, you know, $3 is still not that much money, but yeah, I really commend them for the operation that they have there of just like cranking out fresh bagels all day. That's pretty insane. I've never seen anything like that before. So while it's not like the New York vibe, it's pretty impressive what they're doing. They're taking, you know, they're elevating bagels to an art there. That is very good. That's the best one I've had so far. Good job, Hey Bagel. All right, and then the last one that I have is from a place called Bagel Oasis. So, she's a little tiny, not gonna lie. Here, this is for size. This is comparing it to Hey Bagel. So it is a little bit tiny, but it feels pretty hefty for its size, which to me is a good indication because that tells me that it's pretty dense. It's a little blonde on first inspection, but that can be very normal in a New York bagel, so I'm not gonna dock them for that. And yeah, let's just cut into it. Oh, it's also shiny on the outside. All right, so this is a pretty dense bagel. So that's pretty intriguing to me, honestly. It has a nice springy texture. When you bend it, it doesn't have a crust, you know, like a crunchy crust. The texture is honestly looking pretty good there to me. I think this place is owned by a New Yorker, or at least someone from the Northeast. And I have to say, the texture is pretty spot on. It's very dense, where those other bagels were not nearly as dense as this. I will say, the dough isn't as flavorful as these other ones. The texture is fantastic, and with the cream cheese there, that pretty much tastes like a New York bagel. I think this place also gets the closest to emulating like a New York style bagel place. It's very casual, very relaxed. You know, it's like on the blackboards, the menu is written. So this is very good. I would get a bagel from this place again. Because the density is very good, but I might get like a bagel sandwich or something, or maybe I would get like lox spread, because then I'm not really even gonna taste, you know, the dough, the lack of salt in the dough. But this is a great one. So out of these 4 today, I think that Bagel Oasis and Hey Bagel are definitely places that I would go to again. Like, I would eat any of these again, but you know, these are 2 that I would pay for. So anyway, let's see how we fare tomorrow. And okay, I'm back for day 2 of this bagel tasting shenanigans, and I went to 6 places today, so I'm very proud of myself. And I had a fun morning driving around, and I'm excited to try more bagels. Okay, so I'll start with this one. This is from Old Salt, which I think they have a location in Fremont and then also in Ballard. So yeah, this, I mean, it has a weight to it, which is a positive, but typically, you know, you won't see this seam where the 2 ends of the ring meet. That's not really something that's that big of a deal for me. So yeah, I think it's just gonna be all in the flavor. It is a little bit flat as well, and the outside doesn't look super shiny, but let's give it a taste. Okay, so this is the interior, and actually that looks really awesome. It looks really dense. It smells great. Like, the sesame is really toasted. This is just a plain sesame. But yeah, I think that looks pretty good on the inside. There's not huge air pockets, which I really like. So just like yesterday, I'll try first without the cream cheese, and then I'll add some cream cheese and try it again. It's a good bagel. I think this is most similar to the Bagel Oasis that I tried yesterday, except this is more flavorful. That was missing flavor. The only issue with this is that it's not it's not as chewy as I would like. It's kind of like a dense roll, but it's really flavorful and really good. The density is rare for these Seattle bagels, I'm finding. So that gives it high marks, but it could be a bit more chewy. Again, the outside, I forget which one this was for yesterday, but the outside feels almost like a little bit more like a crust instead of kind of like a really glutinous, chewy kind of thing. But yeah, I would get that bagel again. That kind of, to be honest, that one knocks out the Bagel Oasis from yesterday because it has the dense properties of that one, but it's a little bit more flavorful. So yeah, that one is very tasty. All right, so this next one, this is from Oxbow Bakery, and this is in the Montlake neighborhood. So this looks really good. It looks like they just put the sesame on one side, but again, it's nice to have it on both sides because I like to cut the bagel in half and then kind of eat them like two halves. But yeah, it looks really good. Nice char on the bottom. Feels pretty springy in my hand. It has a little bit of that bubbling. It looks nice and shiny on the outside. Let's cut into it. All right, so already cutting into it, it's kind of like collapsing. When I was like cutting with the knife, it's kind of like collapsing in on itself. So I can tell already that it doesn't have, like, you can see just how springy that is. And then if I compare that to the old salt, you can see how much easier this just springs. So it's not as dense as the old salt. But yeah, feels nice and springy. I'll try first just plain. I don't know if you could see, but it's very, very airy in there. So again, like many of these, it's like a quality product. It tastes great, but it seems like it's really hard to find one that has chewiness and density. But it is flavorful. I would actually say that the old salt is a little bit more flavorful. You know, I don't know if this would be a replacement for a New York bagel, but it's definitely a tasty product. Yeah, out of the two, the old salt, I prefer a little bit. All right, so this is a place that has gotten so much hype, and I used to live near this bakery, and this is called Mount Bagel. And I should also say, so like Old Salt, like their main thing is bagels. Oxbow is a fantastic bakery. Like they have lots of other good food items there and like sweeties. And then Mount Bagel, they exclusively sell bagels. So just to say kind of like what the focus is or the foci of these different places are. But this is the bagel. I like that, like, you know, the belly button is sealed there. Looks kind of shiny on the outside, and they did put seasoning on both sides. It's a nice sized bagel. So again, yeah, this is Mount Bagel. Again, when I'm cutting into it, it's kind of collapsing the same way that the Oxbow bagel did. Look at this, like compare these two. Like this is very, like almost yellow. So that's interesting. That other one was the Oxbow. Yeah, so again, it feels like a bread roll. You can even like see here, like this crust on the edge. Like to me, that's very characteristic of a bread roll. But yeah, let's give it a taste. It's flavorful still. Out of the three, the Old Salt is my preference of these three. It is kind of, yeah, it's just kind of bready. I mean, it tastes good again, but it's actually not as flavorful as some of the ones that I tried yesterday. Like of this bready kind of category, the hay bagel that I had yesterday, that was like a stellar food product. You know, it's not trying to be a New York bagel, or, you know, maybe it's not trying to be a New York bagel, but if for a food product, that thing was amazing. That I finished that at lunch, and that bagel was like, that was really, really tasty and really, really flavorful. This, a similar texture, but not as flavorful. And if you look in the middle there, it kind of looks like a little bit of like raw dough almost in the middle. All right, so next we're gonna go with El Tana. So this is a Montreal style bagel, so we're not gonna be haters because it doesn't really look like a New York bagel at all. It's totally covered in sesame seeds, which is nice. And she dense. Like, this definitely feels really heavy for its size. So let's cut into this and see. This is like, so like if we compare it to like the bready style, so like this is like the bready style, and then this is like this dense brick. So this is super dense. I feel like this might even be a little bit too dense, but it feels like it has some spring to it too. But yeah, let's just taste. Okay. That is pretty tasty. I've heard mixed reviews of El Tana, and I have been there before, and I've had mixed experiences there. I do think that this is actually a pretty tasty product. I would say this has gone a little bit further on the density spectrum of like maybe being a little bit too dense. It does have a little bit of chew, but it's not like that kind of like, you know, you kind of like slightly have to tear the kind of crust of the bagel with your teeth. But it is a good product. It is tasty. I would definitely get this again. It's a nice density. The dough isn't as flavorful as other doughs though. All right, so this is a new place and it's called Backyard Bagel. And this one smells amazing and feels pretty good. Feels like it has some spring to it. It's absolutely covered in sesame seeds. Let's give it a taste. This is very similar to Hay Bagel yesterday. This is super flavorful. So this is an awesome product. Again, it's a little bit too fluffy to be like a New York style bagel, but the flavor is absolutely banging. And yeah, I mean, this and the Hay Bagel yesterday, go get them. It's not, it doesn't really matter if it's like a New York bagel, it just tastes really good. It's just very flavorful. I will also say, with this one and the Hay Bagel yesterday, and they have like a lot of like flaky, I don't know if you would see that, but there's some like flaky sea salt, like kind of like a Malden salt on there. But anyway, this and the Hay Bagel yesterday, there's such a toasty flavor to it, and it's also really well salted. So they're just delicious. But yeah, could be a little bit more dense. But the springiness was good. Okay, so we just have one more, and that is, this is kind of like, I think it's like a very classic, like it's it's been around for longer than some of these other places. This is Rubenstein's Bagels. And yeah, it has a nice shiny exterior. Definitely feels pretty dense. All right, it's definitely not bending when I cut it, so it is definitely dense. Again, I've heard mixed experiences with this place, but I've never had one of their bagels. So you can see there's definitely some density there. It's got a good density to it, and it is pretty springy. The only thing I would say is that it tastes a little dry. But they do have salt on it, so the salt makes it pretty flavorful. The density of this is pretty similar to a New York bagel. It's just that the crust is a little bit dry, like it's a little bit of a thick crust. Like, I don't know if you can tell from me squeezing it there, but it is a little bit thick. But yeah, it's very decent, and they put salt on the outside. So now I have tried 10 bagels. It's been a very interesting experiment. And honestly, I have to say the Rubenstein's is a very like the three kind of bagels that had like the density similar to a New York bagel is the Rubenstein's, the Old Salt, and then the Bagel Oasis from yesterday. Of those three, I probably like the Old Salt the best. I feel like this is very flavorful. But the Rubenstein's is also very good. It's just that crust is a little thick. none of them are totally replacing my like New York bagel place, which just has, you know, it hits all of the marks. It's like chewy, dense, flavorful, all of the things. But I would say that, yeah, the Old Salt I would definitely get again. That is a nice dense, if you're looking for just like a nice dense bagel to have with cream cheese, that one's really good. I would say the Backyard Bagel and the Hay Bagel from yesterday, I would definitely go back to those places for like a bagel sandwich, because they're kind of more like a slightly denser roll, but they're so flavorful. Like they're really, really tasty. So they're definitely worth going to. But yeah, unfortunately, I think I'm not going to be stopping bringing home my New York bagel anytime soon, but it was really interesting to try all of these. And in all honesty, like, you know, they're all really decent products. Like they're like, if a friend asked me to meet at any one of these places, I wouldn't try to like, you know, change our meeting location or anything. I'd be happy enough to eat any of these again. But yeah, I would say my top 3 is the Backyard Bagel, the Old Salt, and the Hay Bagel. Which kind of bums me out to say, because they are kind of like a little bit of like, you know, they're not like just like your typical cheap and cheerful New York bagel joint. Like they are, you know, they are a bit more aesthetic, but that is kind of fun too. So yeah, definitely try those out. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Bye.